Okay, where was I? I was about to probably change this up to unlit. How's it looking lit? Oh, there's no lighting. Delete. 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 Now I want crypt wall. This should be there, and we will move it here. Is that learned it? So one this way, one this way. I'm gonna delete this for now. I think that's a boot. I think that's a boot perfect. Delete, 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 delete. Now we can just do the old alt drag shenanigans. Yep. And we're gonna change this to handy. Alt drag. Damn near perfect. Okay, so we are going to delete, 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 delete. Oh boy. Delete, delete, delete. So we can just do this. Delete. And then if we do holy hand grenade. Encrypt floor. And we can move this up. Right. And what if we delete this guy? And we delete this guy. Control Z on that last delete. that perfect? No, it's not. So that is though. And if we do that again, and then rotate 90. Do this. And this. It's just a boo perfect. Come on, get. Where am I? No. Damn, damn. I unclick that wall. Grr. I think that's it. Did I nail it? I didn't. Okay. Now we want a door. Create a doorway. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's go to wireframe. There she blows. Did I mess with these? Alright, so that's gonna have to clip out this side. That's really annoying. Jail. Cell. Why are these not the same size? Visually, it's annoying. So front door. Oh, is that spot on? No, it's not. And we can do some doorway left. Oh, lots of wires. Oh, my wire's crossed. Unlit. Come on, baby. Show me what you're working with. That looks pretty good. Although I would almost want this to be like not immediately at the bottom of the step. So let's move. No. No. Okay, what kind of sneaky sneaks can I make? Well, there's gotta be another room. Oh, duh. Because this shiitake mushrooms. Oh, that might be an issue. Nah, it's not an issue. I just don't have the right stairs. What in the hell? Do architecture stairs. Stairs 5. Versus stairs 10. They are about the same size. Yeah, they are exactly the same size. Okay. So what if I scale unlock XY, would it be? No. There we go. Do this in wire. As in wire you 0.8 just clipping on this side. And it's just not clipping on this side. I mean, do I really care about below? It's fine for now. Okay, it'll have to do. Why is it like that? Dancing around. As one. Can I just do this? No. Damn near perfect. I do a doorway. And then a decorative right on top of it. Let's see what happens. Unlit. It's lit. 90 degrees. Here, blank. Wireframe, please. And we're gonna have to go to 1. That's on the money. On the money. Which way is the decoration? I made it the wrong way. Can't do the decoration, can I? We'll see. We'll see how it looks. Oh no, did I not alt that? Well, what's the deal here? This entire thing is... Oh! Perspective. Perspected. Get the shiitake mushrooms out of here. Oh, front door. Oh, this might need to be. Come on, ding dong. Like shout. About this boy. So these are the hinges. So do they actually have this backwards? Yeah. And then what if the floor I don't know. This is fine for now. Let's just see what
and be inspired by other students' work. So once you've made a design, doesn't matter if you don't think it's particularly good, go and share it in the discussions for this lecture. Pause the video and have a go. Hello and welcome back. So I think it's quite instructive for us to take a look at literally the first drawing I drew of the level that we're going to be building, and it's pretty rough, so I just warn you, it needs some talking over. Basically, this is as rough as it gets for a level design sketch, right? So we've got over here the entrance doors, and I just kind of drew a pair of doors. My drawing's not particularly good here, as you can see. I had a table and chair, just like they had in the demo level, and then I've got 4 cells here, and we know that we've got this kind of blocky level design, so we've got 1 square here, then an empty square, then a square here, 2 empty squares in the middle, and then a square here, empty square, square, etc. Then I've got a staircase that leads down to the next level, and we've got a slightly smaller set of things down here in the crypt. What I had originally considered, and I don't think I'm going to do this actually in my final design, but I'd considered you have a corridor that goes both ways, and it initially looks like, where do you go? And there's this actual secret pit here that drops you through, and then you've got the challenge of trying to find your way out in this under corridor here. And in the under corridor, you have to go and steal something. It gets blocked off by some rail over here, and so you need to put a vase in its place. But then you've also got to push a coffin from, or pull this table over here so that you can step up out of the secret pit again. So I had a few ideas of the different kind of puzzles that we were going to do, but I've decided to simplify this down to just the corridor that leads to this little section with a rail that blocks it off. Anyway, that's my very basic sketch. Obviously, you can spend more time on this, but it's just to get an idea. And once we get in and building our level, you may find that your ideas change. So I'll see you in the next video. Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we're going to be making this level from scratch using the assets in the asset pack and modularly laying out every single one of these 260 almost actors and making a level that looks something like this. And we're going to keep our outliner nice and organized at the same time by using folders. Let's dive in and see how this is done. So let's start by opening up our new level, which is the dungeon level. It's the root of content for me. And I'm going to go ahead and open it. It's completely blank. And we want to be in our 4-pane view here in order to be able to place things down nice and easily. So what we're going to do, well, I felt bad for leaving you with this scrappy design in the last lecture, so I'm just going to show you how I then refined that just now to basically give you a better idea of what I'm trying to build. So here is the 2 levels separated out. This is the top level here on the right. You can see there's a courtyard section with some doors. We've got the 4 cells here with pillars. table and chair, this time labeled. We've got the statuette hidden inside this open cell and the secret door here that the statuette opens, and then stairs going down to the lower crypt level. Here in the lower crypt, we've now got a dead end over here, some door, but it's closed, we can't get in. We've got the vase, which we're going to need later to open up our closing rails. It's hidden over here. And then if you go around the corner in this crypt, you're going to find the open doors to the mausoleum, where there is the statue that we want to steal. We take that statue, the rails close, so we need to put the statue back. We need to then go find some substitute for the statue, this vase over here near the dead end, and then we can escape with our statue. So that's going to be the little puzzle. We're going to have to, first of all, find that we need to open a secret door. Then we're going to need to find the vase to open the statue. Well, how do we go about creating this with the components we've got? Well, control space to open up our content drawer, and then we can search for floor. So if I search for floor, you can see it's coming up with a bunch of different stuff, but what we're looking for is the SM floor. So maybe we can start with SM floor, and you can see it's going to come up with a few options. We've got the crypt floor, but we've also got our standard floor as well. So we need to decide where we want to start with our design. In my case, I think I'm going to start with the upper section and the courtyard, etc. So let's go ahead and start creating the courtyard. As you can see from my design, this looks like it needs to be 3 units by 3 units for this main inner section, and the outer section may as well be 3 by 2. So let's go in and create that. We're going to take a floor mesh and we're going to drag it into our top-down scene like so, and you can see that it's added it in here. So we can then, you can see you can drag it around pretty freely, but I actually don't want to drag it around so freely. We can restrict how we're dragging it by clicking on this plus icon here, or if you've got a bigger screen, it's actually going to be visible to you. And we're going to look at the grid snap settings. Now here we get to choose the increments with which this is going to snap. And in this case, I actually want to snap with fairly large increments of 1 meter, which will allow me to place things aligned on this grid that we are seeing. Now I'm just going to reset the transform so that this floor starts at the 0, 0 point, and we can start building out the floor for our courtyard.
Joseph.
So we can alt-click and drag in the top-down view to start creating the courtyard. Now I want my X to be the forward direction, and in the X direction is where we're going to head to get to our goals. So I'm going to build out the courtyard around that. We're just going to drag these floor tiles a bit, and that should create us the courtyard. Now remember, we're doing this in the unlit mode because we have no lighting at the moment. Now just at the moment, just be following along, and in a second I'm going to challenge you to build out your own level. So just watch, see how I build with the level, and then we'll come back and do some more level building after that. Now I just want to take a second to have a look at the outliner and check that we are going to have something manageable here in the outliner. You can see that we're already starting to accumulate a lot of actors, and they're kind of unmanaged. So what I would like to do is right click on this and move them into a new folder, which we're going to call the courtyard, so that we can just have the different areas split out, and we can easily hide or show different elements of the map. This is going to be useful when we have a lot more map. Now, before I go much further, I'd like to add some walls into my courtyard. So I'm going to look for SM wall in the outliner. And you can see we've got the crypt walls first of all, but I want the dungeon walls here. And you can see there's a few variations of decorative wall available too. I'm just going to go for the standard dungeon wall, and I'm going to try and place it somewhere in my level. You can see I can actually put it in the visible level, or I could try and drop it into one of the other levels instead. But I'm just going to put it in the visible section, and then I'm going to try and align its corner with the edge of the map and then drag it out to make a wall. When we get to a corner, we need to rotate it by 90 degrees, about like so. And you can see that we've got the wall finished off over here. Now, what I can do is I can easily take these two elements by shift-clicking them, in fact, and then I can move them to the other side with an alt drag to the other side. And that finishes off the wall nicely on the whole courtyard. Well, actually not quite. We need to bring two panels here over to add wall on this side of the courtyard, because we're going to have a big door in this central area. But we'll think about the door in just a second. First of all, we're going to continue our flooring. So now that I have these 3 panels, I can select them with shift-click and an alt and duplicate the whole lot so that I can create floor for the whole of the inside dungeon area. And I can do the same with the walls. So here we go. We've got our main dungeon area in there. We've got our walls. We've got our little courtyard area, which we may want to make bigger later on, which we can always do. And then we've got our secret door going down the stairs into the crypt. So the stairs are probably the next element that I want to worry about. So let's search for SM stair. And you can see they come in 2 varieties, a step 5 steps and 10 steps. Now, having looked at the level, I know that you need 1 5-step and 2 10 steps to make it down to the crypt level. But if we weren't sure about that, how could we figure that out? Well, first of all, we could have a look for some crypt wall and figure out from there essentially what the height is. So I'm going to bring in a crypt wall. I'm going to drag it in to my level down here, and I'm going to try and align it on the right-hand view so that we can kind of see its height. Now you see this height, because it's 450, doesn't align with our grid spacing. So we need to go and change the grid snap settings to be a grid size of 50. So now we're going to align on 0.5 meter. And that allows me just to align the roof of this floor level with the bottom of the floor on the upper level. So you can see what that looks like from this view, and it kind of looks okay. I'm just going to make sure it's aligned with the side of the passage, but we may need to change things there anyway. Now, let's take the stair. So SM stair is what we're going to look for. And I'm going to take the 10 unit stair. And notice it's aligned in the wrong direction. It's trying to go up in the y-axis, so we're going to need to rotate it by 90 degrees. And then we can try and position this so that it starts at the exit to our dungeon. And then we can duplicate it. I'm going to use the right view and Alt to move these steps down. And you can see how another set of 10 stairs would be too many here. So we can take the slightly smaller mesh, bring it into our scene, and we can rotate that by 90 degrees as well, and then try and position it next to these stairs here. Now, it's not 100% perfect, and we may need to have the floor level slightly higher than the last few steps, but that's going to be fine too. We can easily just have the wall start here and also have some crypt floor starting down there as well. So let's search for the SM crypt floor. You can see there's a few concave examples, but I want the flat crypt floor, which I'm going to drag in to our top-down view. And notice that the stairs are actually a bit wider than that floor, but that's fine. What we can do to mitigate that fact here is simply just have two of them and hide some of the flooring behind the wall. So we select both of these, bring them down to our floor level under the stairs, and we may just need to bring them along to align them with our wall. Now I'm going to finish off the walls in our staircase by duplicating some of the dungeon walls here, bringing them into the staircase like so, and then just filling out with some copies this whole space. And it doesn't matter if things overlap a little bit and we have extra wall that's not visible. That's all part of the magic of using these modular things, is you can often just hide the fact that you've got a little bit of excess behind some of your other scenery. So here you can see I've got the staircase mostly sorted. I'm going to add in a bit of wall here to patch things up over the top of our crypt hallway. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Then I'm going to select and shift select all the walls along this one side. And I notice I've actually got a duplicate wall that's misaligned that I don't need. So let's get rid of that, and then shift click all of this using the move tool, alt click, and move it to the other side of the staircase. And if we go and have a look from a player perspective, you can see things are not quite aligned here on the corner, but this is okay because we can patch this over with some pillars or some other level design material later on. We're just getting the basic building blocks right now, and this is looking pretty okay, to be honest. So with some of these skills, I'd like you to go ahead and have a stab at creating your own level layout. First of all, just look at doing the walls and floors and ceilings potentially as well if you want, or if you want to see how I do those, you can come back and try that with me later on. We're also going to add in some doors, try and find some door meshes and add doors between some of your areas. And then decoration after that, so adding in pillars and arches and stuff. Have a go, see if you can decorate some of the set scene as well. But for now, just ignore any lighting. We're going to stay in this unlit mode and just look at our geometry for the level instead. Okay, welcome back. So let's carry on. I think ceilings are needed within this crypt at the moment because it's quite open air. So we're going to have a look for the SM ceiling. And we've got a few different ceiling pieces here of different arch length. I think I just want this simple ceiling here, which I'm going to drag in to the top-down view. And I'm going to try and position. Now, it's pretty invisible from the top, which is slightly annoying. But as long as I know which corner we are aligning, or whether we're aligning a corner, no, it looks like the center of the mesh is actually the center of it. So we're not aligning a corner at all. We're trying to place it in the middle, and we're trying to have it lifted up. We can use that either the right or the back view to do that. Lift it up so that it meets with, let's see, we don't actually want it to go over our walls. We want it to overlap them so that when we're inside, there you go, you can see completely blocked off by the wall and the ceiling like so. So now all we need to do is repeat this to cover the entirety of the dungeon using a bit of shift-clicking magic once we've got a few of them. And there we go. We've got a ceiling that basically covers the entirety of our dungeon. We just need to extend that ceiling a little bit further to cover our staircase. So there we've got the staircase covered as well. Now I'm going to try and look for some doors that I want. So I'm going to look for SM door. And you can see we've got these doorways with doors separate. Actually, I think we want a BP door, so a blueprint door, that has both of them already put together into a blueprint. So we've got the crypt doorway, we've got the dungeon doorway. We want a dungeon doorway in our upper level. So let's go and put that in the level and arrange it so that actually the doorway should be at the other end, not near my secret passage. So there we go. We've got a doorway over here. Now I want to set the doors slightly ajar. So if I select the blueprint, I can then go down and have a look at the individual components that make it up with a left door and a right door. And I can select the rotation and the transform of the Z-axis to rotate these doors a little bit open, both of them, so that they both swing open in the same direction. Like so, we've got a doorway out to the courtyard. Now let's look for SM pillar, and I want the SM pillar, not the crypt pillar. I'm going to drag this into our scene, and I'm going to position it in the middle of these posts. There we go, like so. Now I think to break up the monotony of these walls, we're going to need some arches. So if we search for SM arch, then we've got ceiling arch A.
Bro, you are doing a lot here, bud. You are for sure doing a lot. There are two there? Crypt. Sona. Hey! Okay.
A's and B's. Just going to go with the A's for now. We can always easily swap out a mesh if we need to. So I've positioned this arch. It should be going over the entry to the secret passage, and then I can lift it up so that it's properly aligned with the ceiling. Let's duplicate out these arches so that they cover this entire wall. And I'm going to shift select them all and duplicate them along the room. So that does the arches in one orientation. Let's rotate them by 90 degrees with an alt click to make a duplicate at the same time, and let's duplicate them in the other orientation. There we go, that's broken up the monotony of that room quite significantly. We may want to have some of those arches in the staircase as well. So I selected a group of arches that I've already got, and I'll alt drag them to fill the staircase. That's looking a lot better, and I'm just noticing that I think I probably need pillars in every one of these spots as well. In the case of the staircase, I think I need 2 pillars, one on top of the other. And there you go, I've got pillars now on each of these arches, which makes the room really filled out and look good.
Oh. Oh, that's easier. Okay. Oh, this is quite annoying. Let's do ceiling. Oh no. Ceiling, please. Oh boy. You're gonna need 4 of these. You're yoinking my Johnson right now. I know you are. There you go. Fine. You're yoinking my Johnson, aren't you? Aren't you yoinking my Johnson? Okay, we're gonna want to alt. Well, let's do this. Can I do this? Would be lovely, but it looks like near. Oh, you can. Can I group? Group them boys. Group them boys. Group. Oh, this needs to slurp down. Slurp. And then should I put a group them boys? Group them boys. Group. Oh, marron. This is amazing. This is such a better way to do it. Such a better way to do it. Do I not have floors? Yeah, I do. I mean, it's gross, but it's fine.
And we've almost got all the pillars that we want here in the staircase. I'm just going to need to duplicate these sets of 4 pillars to go a little bit further. To finish this off, I'm just going to need to add in some cell walls. So we've actually got, I noticed it before, we have a BP cell here, which has got a door. So I'm going to bring that in for the cell doors. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees and position it between the pillars. Duplicate that around. And then we're going to need just the cell side, which is SM cell. I'm going to position that correctly and duplicate it around. There we go. We've got cell walls, we've got cells, and we've got a bit of a dungeon setup going on. Now the next bit, the whole crypt downstairs, is basically more of the same, but with different meshes. I'm just going to go ahead and speed through that while I create it. So one thing I've noticed here with the ceiling is that because we've got a slightly wider section where it interfaces with the units of the dungeon, we actually need to use this half ceiling to bridge the gap, and we'll have to use a bit of flat ceiling too. So I'm just going to duplicate this, going to rotate it 180 degrees, and you can see we've got a bit of a hole here. So we're going to use this SM crypt ceiling flat to patch that over, and that covers it over rather nicely. And we'll just duplicate that whole assembly into the corridor. And now we can just use the standard crypt ceilings here. And you can see they dovetail nicely into that little patched bit of ceiling that we've created. Now I'm getting to the bit where I'm going to be using the mausoleum meshes. So the mausoleum is a funny looking double mesh here, well, 2 sides to it, and there's a ceiling as well, especially for it. So let's take in the mausoleum and plonk it in our scene to see what it looks like. Let's put it at the right height for our crypt. And you can see it's just this one wall that's rounded, so we do still need a capping wall at the end here. And what we can do is we can either rotate or scale it to the other side. So I can just go ahead and kind of invert the scale for the mausoleum to get a mirror image on the other side. And I just need to do the same old thing with the ceiling too. Just position it down at the right level, and you can see that the ceiling fits on perfectly to this mesh underneath it. Just going to duplicate it and scale it by -1. And now minus a floor and something on the end wall over there, we've got ourselves a nice looking little mausoleum here. Now with any of these really boring walls, we can actually swap them out for other static mesh walls. So if you go to the details pane and scroll down to where you've got the static mesh, then what we can do is we can just go in here and search for SM crypt wall. And you can see there's a few decorative options. So you could select the decorative A, for example, instead. In this case, it's rotated, this wall is rotated the wrong way. So I'm just going to have to rotate it by 180 and put it into place. And you can see that you get a more decorative wall that's in keeping with the rest of this mausoleum area. So now I'm just adding some arches and pillars. Having to bodge it with this arch just a little bit by scaling it, which is not ideal, but it'll do. So let's do a quick fly through to see if there's anything obviously missing. So here I am in my courtyard, and we're going to fly into the dungeon, and you can see that that looks pretty good. Everything seems to be matching up. No kind of open gaps between things. Now I can go down my staircase, and let's just check. The staircase looks okay as well. Yep, that looks good. Now we're going to go down. I've put a little arch and a hallway, little door here. We may need to put something across this top element here because I can see a bit of a gap. If we look for SM trim, then there seems to be something that may fit at the bill. It doesn't quite align with the axis, so what I'm going to do is just quickly switch off our grid snapping so that I can put it in place like so. And I'm also going to move the arch ever so slightly so that it's not penetrating this wall, because I don't want to see it on this side. I just want to see it on the other side like so. And now I'm actually looking at these bits of wall between the pillars, and they don't look quite right. So I think what we need here is this SM edge stones, which if I drag them into the scene, you can see just look like this. They kind of neaten up that edge there. Now, I've had the grid snapping off when I brought this in, so let's go back to switch on the grid snapping. And then we can right-click on the object and go to snapping and then snap origin to grid, which then puts it back onto the grid and allows us to move it around and put it between these edging pillars here. Having duplicated that to both sides, I think that just makes this staircase look a little bit better. Let's continue our fly through. So we can see here's our dead end over here. Everything's looking okay. What if we go in the other direction? Well, I think we need something on this wall here, so I'm just going to swap that out. So I'm just going for a decorative B and rotating it round like so. Looks a little bit less monotonous. Let's continue the fly through. Down we go down this corridor and in to our mausoleum, which is looking quite all right apart from this arch poking through. So let's push the arch back just a little bit bit. In fact, we can, without switching grid snapping off, we could just adjust things minutely in the details pane just by shifting the x-axis, coming through and having a look and seeing that that looks okay here. Noticing that I've actually got a couple of pillars missing here as well. We could just use a bit of edge trim stone here instead. Just changing the grid snapping scale to place these stones as they don't really fit onto our modular system in this particular location, but they do the job of rounding things off quite nicely. So great stuff. One thing before we finish off, we've got 200 and almost 60 actors in our scene, and I forgot to put them in 2 folders. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that now. And one way that's quite easy to do this by sections is to box select, which you can just do by left clicking and dragging on any of the orthographic views.
Holy moly!
You can see that allows us to select objects quite easily. We might just want to deselect a couple of things manually. So these selected actors, I'm going to right click, move to a new folder called the dungeon. So now we've got the courtyard, the dungeon. We can hide both of these so that we can see what actors we actually selected. I can see that the walls here haven't been selected, so I can Control Alt click in the 3D viewport. I can also box select those actors, and I can right click, move them to the courtyard, so that now when I go to the courtyard folder and make it invisible, that goes as well. The next thing I want to do is the staircase. So I'm box selecting that from the right view, just going into the 3D view and visually inspecting that everything I wanted has been selected. Right clicking that, move to create new folder, and we'll call this one the staircase. Let's hide it, make sure we got all the actors that we wanted. Looks like we did. Now I'm going to box select this whole corridor section. Again, visually inspecting for any actors that may have got missed. Right clicking, move to create new folder, corridor. Then we can hide the corridor. And now the last bit that's left, which is pretty easy to do, is going to be our mausoleum. So let's right click and create a new folder and call it the mausoleum, which I always struggle to spell, but I think I managed by copying how it was spelt in the assets. So now if we close down all of our folders, we should hopefully not have any straggling leftovers that are not in any of these areas. And we can individually just enable the courtyard, for example, and just see that in our 3D view. We might just enable the dungeon or the mausoleum. We can just see individual elements one at a time if we need to, and that can be helpful when we get to having lots of actors like this. And you might want to split out your level in a different way. You might want to put the ceilings inside folders. You can have folders within folders as well, so that you could disable the ceilings while you're trying to do work on just the floors. It depends on your own personal workflow, and you'll get a feel for that as you go along. But it's good to keep some sort of order there in the outliner. Okay, so that has been a mammoth long lecture. Well done for sticking through it. There's a lot of clicking and dragging to be done with level layout, but hopefully you've now got a feel for how to do this modular level layout, and you feel empowered to create your own levels. I'll see you in the next lecture.
See you in the next lecture. Oh, we got lighting. I don't think I can do lighting today.
Hello and welcome in this lecture.
Okay, we're gonna go to Minecraft.